99% of the time of our careers working together, we focus all of our energy at belongingness and above at the psychological needs level. And we talk a lot about self-actualization and what that looks like and how that's different for different people. We certainly address esteem needs, and really our floor in good times is belongingness. It's very difficult to have a work-related conversation about a deliverable or about someone's career when they don't know where they're going to be living next week, or their parents have COVID, or their kids are starting school and they're not quite sure what decision to make, remote or in person, and what the implications of that are. And so what I wanted to talk to you about today is the reality of this new floor, which is down to the basic needs, and then what we can do as leaders to help our teams, our people, our organization.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's the privilege of kind of most of Western society. If you've got a job, right, your lower basic needs are met. I think the crisis shows that we're all susceptible to being pushed down this hierarchy into the basic needs. When I think about the responsibility of a leader during a crisis, it's to, recognize that there's going to be this rapid cycling, up and down this hierarchy. But there's just volatility that comes along with a crisis, where if you talk to somebody last week and they're good, right, and they're able to focus on a deliverable or a project or some sort of outcome, it doesn't mean the next week they will, right? Because things are changing so rapidly, and there's so much uncertainty out there. And so I think part of what came to mind as you were showing me this is that as leaders, we have to recognize that people's basic needs will get challenged. Right? It's not a question of if it will, it will. And we have to start by, with every touch point, assessing what they need right in that moment. And so the nature of my one-on-ones have changed. And the nature of my kind of check-ins with myself have changed too, right? Because as a leader, I have to assess, okay, where am I in this hierarchy as well? Because if I'm dealing with, oh my gosh, how do I keep my kids safe when thinking about going back to school, I'm not in the right headspace and heart space to think about and address others' needs as well. And so, yeah, I think this is very relevant. And some other time we could talk about some personal situations where, I was pushed way down low in crisis and had to rely upon others to kind of help me get back up. But that's what I think about as a leader, right? It's like, what have I learned having gone through crisis that I can share with others?
What are some, tactical things that you do when you kick off your one-on-one with someone to sort of gauge their, kind of where they're at and see where that will affect the direction of the conversation?
Yeah, that's good. Two things. One, I think there's regularly scheduled one-on-ones, and then there's ad hoc kind of check-ins. I think because in crisis, I think you have to ramp up the frequency of interaction, right? To be able to adapt to the, kind of the rapidly changing needs of your team. But I really, really pay attention to tone of voice, right? The first words that come out of people's mouths when we chat really, really tell a lot. And that is what I think in a pre-crisis mode, it's really easy to just kind of, chit chat. Hey, how are things going? What's going on? What are you up to? And then kind of get into the groove of dialing into what is being discussed right now, dialing into that nonverbal communication. Here, I think I've been really trying to hone in on what is the first thing that they say? What is their tone of voice saying? And that tells me a lot, right? That tells me if I need to completely drop my agenda and just ask questions, or if I need to follow their lead. It's hard to say because it's so individual. But I think if you really pay attention to the first things that are said, it can inform how you ask questions and you kind of show up in that one-on-one.
Yeah, I really like that for two reasons. One, it's practical, right? You can have a little checklist. You can have it up on your screen. You can have it written down, and just like, hey, pay close attention to the first words. That also helps you be present in the moment, which I think is a really good thing for us to do during times of crisis, especially. And also, though, this presupposes that you know your teams well, you know the humans that you work with well, and you can sense when something's up. You have a baseline.
Yeah.
And so one thing I want to talk to you a lot about as we go on is this idea of almost like crisis inoculation, right? What are the things as a leader you should be doing before the next crisis, right? We'll get through this thing. Pandemics end, economic cycles rebound. The future is bright. What are things when we're in the next expansion, when times are good, what can we be doing as leaders to help prepare for the next crisis? And one of those is absolutely what you outlined, which is getting to know your people really, really well so that you know when something's up. And that will help in good times too, but especially now when, like you said, basic needs are threatened. You have a early warning system built into your spidey sense, which will help you support your team, which I really like that. So yeah, that's good. One thing I found too is a lot of times I'll ask. I don't make a habit of doing it every time, but in my last sort of group discussion with my mentor tree, I just said, hey, on Zoom, everybody, use the thumbs up reaction if your physical needs are being met. Like, do you have everything that you need? And, I had this sort of Brady Bunch view on there, and I saw everyone said that their needs were being met. And so I felt like, hey, in that moment, things are good for now. There's nothing actionable needed by me. And then every now and then, in one-on-ones, especially when I try to spend some of them outside walking and encourage others to, get up and get active and moving. It kind of encourages the physical needs, right? Getting movement.
Yep.
And also it's a little bit more informality. We can say like, hey, I'm just calling. I really want to just check in with you right now. Is everything going well? And, I had a sort of the initial feeling of the conversation. This was 3 weeks ago was, everything's good. The first few words were positive. And when I kind of said, hey, I just want to check in on you. How are you doing? It's like, actually, like things are really tough right now. Like I've been burning the candle at both ends. My basement flooded, I'm dealing with that. And, there was this outpour of personal and professional concern that was not obvious at the beginning. And so I think sometimes people will tell you if you ask.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, that there's, it's worth asking again, right? Because if you continue to ask, you'll get different answers. And one of the things that reminds me that I do in every one-on-one now is I ask, when are you going on vacation next? Right? Because there's this, naturally, there's just a depression in the willingness and desire to take vacations, especially because there's limited travel, and yet there's still benefit even if you stay home and disconnect. And so every one-on-one I ask that question. It's like, when have you gone on vacation? When are you planning to go again? And oftentimes through that, you can help the person identify that they might have some more basic needs that need to be met that would be better served by taking time off. So I really like that as a very tactical, kind of practical question to